Hello, welcome to the Heated Debate brought to you by Emirates. We've had 62 games, guys. It's been unbelievable. The tournament, though, it is coming to an end. We've seen so much football. We've been at plenty of games, and I'm sure everyone at home has watched plenty of games as well. So let's do the team of the tournament. I think we're at a stage now where we can confirm and put people in there for their individual performances. Zac, Sam, we're going to try and get through the entire squad. We've not any arguments, but plenty of debate. So, Zac, I'm coming to you first. Goalkeepers, you were adamant there was one name that goes in there, but I think we can agree there's been a few names that have had great goalkeeping performances throughout.
Yeah, and we've already got so many cards. I think Szczesny is a guy that could have been, if he got further in the competition, could have been on this board. There's also Martinez as well, who's made it to the final. But the two that I think that have been stand out and actually will face off against each other today is Croatia's Livakovic and I was going to say Modric's, Morocco's Bono as well. I think these guys have really had stand-out performances when their defence, because of the way they played their football, quite similar actually, kind of a bit more conservative, a bit more let the other team press us. Well, actually, when you think about Morocco's performance against France, they had a bit more of the ball, surprisingly. But throughout the tournament anyway, they were more than happy to take pressure on. And these guys, when relied upon, when they did finally get through, had to be there. Both obviously went to penalty shootouts as well, did incredibly well in those shootouts. And so for me, I think Livakovic just edges it personally. I think when it comes down to the in-game, I think he was making more crucial saves. There were several times where people like Croatia's defence did get broken through, and I think he was there more often than not. Whereas with Bono, I kind of feel like I don't really remember him having that much to do.
That game
I think Morocco's defence was just amazing.
No, I think the game against Spain, you saw him come up in the big moments. You know, Spain were driving forward, and in the moments when they did break through, Bono was there. And especially in the shootout, I think just his presence in goal and the saves that he made, and the fact that obviously, if we look at the whole tournament as a whole, I'd say Bono was behind the best defence. They only conceded one goal before they got to the knockout stages. But yeah, I think that he played a big part in that. And I think Livakovic, I think the mistake against Argentina to give away that penalty, that could go against him. Obviously, every keeper has had
I think Bono could do better with the first goal against France.
I agree, but he probably would have got knocked out or something mad with the penalty.
You know what they say about goalkeepers. I think the only other thing as well is it might just be my own personal thing, but whenever I saw Bono on the ball, I just felt like he didn't look like he wanted it.
He's the modern day type of goalkeeper.
He didn't want it there. He didn't want to play out the back. It felt like everything was a little bit pressurised. It almost felt like a mistake was going to happen every single time. It didn't, so maybe that's just on me. But I mean, Carl, it might come to you, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, neither of them are Jordan Pickford. He had some great saves throughout the tournament. No,
not against France.
Well, yeah, I think both of them, you can argue. For me, I'm thinking, is it recency bias when we think about certain players, but then this is a World Cup? Of course it's recency bias because they've got further on in the tournament than the other keepers that were great during the group stages.
Games,
I think Livakovic, that's the one that everyone was talking about, and I do think that his overall performance, when you actually look at from the group stages into the knockouts, where they've managed to get to, I've looked at him and thought he's been a player that's been more solid, more secure. That's what I'm picking, that's what I'm putting in there, okay?
It's not a mad shout, but Bono, he definitely deserves a shout to be there.
See you later, Bono, mate.
Right, let's get on to the centre-backs, okay? Centre-back partnerships, we're going to look at those. Again, Sam, it feels like throughout the entire tournament there's been certain individuals within teams that have really stood out and have brought their partners along with them as well. Anyone that stands out?
I think there's one player that everyone will agree deserves to be there, and that is Garvado for Croatia. I think he's been one of the best defenders at the tournament. He's just been incredible on the ball, high pressure situations. He's so young. His value has definitely increased every time he's played a game. Obviously, everyone's going to say, but Messi tore him up. It was Messi.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He got taught a lesson, though.
Yeah, he got taught a lesson. He will learn from it. And I think overall, in the tournament, I think he's definitely been one of the best.
I've got no arguments. I think whatever happens, he has to go on the board. He has really shone. He's really shone this tournament. And he's a guy that I think a lot of football fans, if you were really into your Champions League football, your Bundesliga football, you would have known about Gvardiol. It's obviously a guy that Chelsea were also interested in the summer, publicly. And he's a guy that, for the future, he's someone that's going to be dominating defences. and his transfer fee in the summer could be
the stock has risen, and I think you can say, like at tournaments, there's always players that come out of it and everyone says he's going to get a move, he's going to get a move. Guardiola is one of those players where now it looks like a big club, whether that's in the Premier League, people seem to be fighting for him. Yeah, Man City as well. He is going to move. Whether it'll be January, I'm not sure, but in the summer, he will be one of those players that steps up.
What's like crazy to think about is that like he's a left-footed centre back, which just adds more to his profile. Like there's a world that he costs more than Virgil van Dijk did.
Yeah, 100%.
And he'll only be 21, 22 years old.
Very comfortable on his right as well.
Yeah, like he was fantastic this tournament. And I think, as you said, like coming up against Messi would have. But you'd like to think maybe he'd learnt a bit from it as well, like getting torn as he did for that third goal. And as you said, it is Lionel Messi.
But his biggest game was against Brazil, and he was up against a great attack. So yeah, I think he can hold his head up high and say, like.
I wonder if Neymar's in this team at tournament.
We'll get to that. Right, then let's look at who'd be partnered up with. There's two names there, Zach.
Two names there, and I feel like we are missing a big third one. Again, we only had so many cards, and I want to mention him. And one of these names have been included just because it was included online.
Right, okay. Now, Sky Sports had done one, it was voted for, and Maguire made it next to Guardiola, but Rafael Varane, what people forgetting?
Maguire wasn't even the best centre back.
He wasn't England's best centre back realistically. Like there was a really nice story about Maguire. Obviously, he had barely played. Everyone was thinking about, is he even going to feature in this England squad? Is he even going to get selected? Gareth called him up, and he was actually very, very good.
He played well, but no way does he deserve to be in this team.
In a realistic world, if we're going to put an English centre back on there, it would have been John Stones, and probably we don't even put John Stones. Actually, what we could have put is Saiss for Morocco. He was fantastic, and you never know if he didn't have to get substituted.
Could have been a different game. Yeah.
He could have been a very different game. So.
And I even like the warrior heart in him, knowing that he's half injured and trying to like play for his team as captain. Obviously, it kind of did cost them, but at the same time, I like the storyline. But this man. I think he's one of those players that has gone under the radar in a sense, just because we know, for France especially, he's always a top performer. But he always makes the centre-backs next to him look more comfortable. Like we've seen it in Manchester United when Martinez has come into the fold, they look very good together. But this France side, he's played with like 3 other centre-back partners, and he always looks solid. So yeah, for me, Varane has to be there.
There was a thing about Varane, obviously, after his first season with United, there was a little bit of question marks about quite what, is he the same kind of guy he was at Real Madrid? Was he just being carried by Sergio Ramos for Real Madrid? Was the fact that the midfield was so good at the last World Cup with Kante and Paul Pogba that he had a bit of an easier time there. I think at this World Cup he's really kind of proven again that he is one of the world's best. He is one of the elite. He's a guy that Eric Ten Hag will be looking back being, I can't wait to get you back into this squad and have you starting for us. He's been unfortunate with injuries throughout his career as well.
And the fact that he got that injury as well before the tournament, that was like when he started holding his face and looked like he wasn't going to be here. The fact that he's recovered from that as well. So. Yeah, he's done really well, man.
I'm telling you, one man that's not on the list that he would have been if he would have featured more, I can guarantee it, Konate. If Konate would have played more, from what I've seen of him and what I think that he would have been part of the team of the tournament, which just shows how strong France have got in that defensive area and actually in defence, the players they've got. Another team, though, obviously, we need to talk about them, Argentina. Not picked either of their centre-backs. Otamendi, come on, what?
I have a weird thing with Argentina's defence, but I still don't think they're that great.
Nah, they are,
When I look at them, Christian Romero and Otamendi are warriors in terms of they put everything on the line.
Yeah.
They'll put themselves in
we wrote Maguire over Romero.
Yeah, Maguire was more of the comedic effect, to be quite honest, put a joke in there. But yeah, no, Christian Romero I think's they have had good tournaments. I just sometimes, I don't know what it is about when I look at this Argentina squad.
They have like a rush of blood at times.
Yeah, there's a rush of blood to the head, but I just still don't think, when I look, compared to these two centre-backs, they've not been better than them in this tournament.
Well, they've only conceded 5 goals. 2 against Saudi, was it 2 against Netherlands as well, 1 against Australia just before that.
The way they conceded those goals were poor.
Yeah,
the first Saudi goal, the second Saudi goal was an incredible strike, don't get you wrong, and also the goals against the Netherlands were really poor goals to concede.
I think that they've learnt from those situations, like the Saudi Arabia game, obviously the occasion, you could say, got the better of them.
Yeah.
The Netherlands game, I think that was just good on Netherlands. Like they dashed 2 7-foot strikers, got Van Dijk playing up front as well. Like it would be very difficult to deal with that. But then the next game, I think it was a clean sheet as well. They've looked more comfortable playing out from the back as well. And a player like Otamendi, like he's coming to the latter stages of his career. Like he's definitely proven that he can still ball. And even Romero coming back from the Saudi Arabia game, having Martinez coming from the bench as well. I think that they deserve more of a shout to be in
for
it.
sure. But I think when you just look at them compared to these, like,
they're the strongest.
And when you really look at that Argentina squad, the strength comes in the midfield and forward when we get onto them for sure.
Right, well, let's get on to full-backs then and complete the defence. So we've got right back, left back. I mean, it feels like some of them quite solid, but let's start with left back because there's not been many choices, I think. I just want to try and get this out. There's not been anyone that stood out, really.
No, not necessarily. Again, if England kind of continued to go forward and Luke Shaw maybe improved, like he could have possibly been within the shout. Other guys like the fullback for Argentina, Acuna was worth a shout. But realistically, when you've looked at this squad, I think it's going to have to
just this one man.
He's someone who there is an argument for him being the best left back in the world. To be quite honest, he's someone that was fantastic at AC Milan and during the Champions League. I mean, he was someone that Chelsea were incredibly worried about. And then obviously the way the games went, Chelsea didn't have to be in the end due to red cards. And he's come into this tournament, and I don't necessarily think he's been spectacular. But I just don't think many left backs have been amazing.
The Australian one was all right. He was left back. He was okay as well.
I actually think Hernandez has been really good. You know, I think the connection that he has with Mbappe down that left-hand side is incredible, and also the fact that he's had to come in, take over his brother, a position that like a lot. You almost forget how important it is to a system until he's playing that way, and then you realise, okay, having a fullback that overlaps, that's always getting forward, that can also defend, that's aggressive. You saw how much he was getting into Saka. Yeah, there was a few fouls, but at the same time, he doesn't give any winger time to breathe. So I think he's been incredible.
Defensively, though, I mean, he gave away a penalty to Mason Mount, obviously for England. Looked a bit shaky at times as well. You can argue both French.
I actually thought he was shaky.
But his goal was incredible.
I thought he was a little bit defensively shaky for against Morocco, to be honest.
That goal he scored as well.
Don't get me wrong, great goal. Like going there's no questions about him going forward. I just think defensively he could be a little bit suspect, but I don't think he's a better option.
But he still makes it into our team. Right, let's move on then. So right back, who've we got?
Right back is a little bit more of a shout. Not necessarily, but at the moment I've got written down Hakimi for Morocco. I've not centred it that well, so I apologise. And I've not centred Koundé even that well. But I think Koundé is someone coming into this tournament. I was putting a lot of disrespect on, to be quite honest. I was saying I didn't think he was going to be great there. He's not a guy that plays right back very often, and with the way that football is nowadays, you want your right backs attacking, you want your right backs going forward. But I think he really works in this French squad because he is going forward so much for France. He's more than kind of welcome, more than allowed to just kind of stay back and sit in and kind of become a back three when he pushes on. He surprised me. I remember going into the England game and saying, go at Koundé, go at Koundé, go at Koundé. And actually what you saw was England go at Hernandez and see a lot more success from going at Hernandez rather than Koundé. And I think that's a lot of credit to him. He's someone that, again, going into this tournament, Pavard was the previous right back at the last one, another kind of centre-back come right back. And so I think Koundé to kind of get into that squad has done very, very well.
Has he done better than Hakimi, though, in this tournament?
Not at all.
Hakimi,
there we go.
Hakimi has to be there. He's like the heart and soul of Morocco. Every time he's like, it's crazy because every time Morocco are driving forward, you always see Hakimi there and you're like, where did he come from, type of thing. And he's and the fact that I also just like the storyline. He was able to play for Spain. He wanted to play for his mother country. The celebrations that he had with them after, and just how much it means to him. I think the relationship that we've seen him have with his mother is almost like encapsulated their whole nation, and everyone's like, you know what, we want Morocco to do well because of that. And also, he's a great player. I think he's easily one of the best fullbacks at this competition in general.
And the penalty solidified him.
He didn't drop off.
The penalty, I mean, that'll be World Cup history, football heritage right there in 20 years. Right, let's lock those in then. Get on to defensive midfielder.
This is where it gets mad.
It does. Last time we did this, team of the tournament so far, we had Casemiro. Is he even in the conversation anymore, Zach?
No. Unfortunately,
completely gone.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Mainly
he was good though.
He was good. He's someone that allowed Brazil to kind of flourish in the way that they did. However, he also was kind of a mistake for Croatia scoring and going on to do what happened. And when you're looking at just this month, like he didn't make it as far as some of the guys we've got here. And I think when you really do look at one name in particular, Because there's certain things. I think what kind of maybe goes against Casemiro is we all know him as a world-class midfielder or DM, whereas there's a name in here where I don't think anyone expected to be talking about him at this stage, let alone for the team of the tournament. But I'll let you.
Can we just confirm as well? We've got 4 at the back. So it's going to be 4-3-3.
4-3-3.
Okay.
4-3-3, yes.
Right,
One DM.
that's locked in formation.
Yeah.
We're not arguing with that. All right. So the 2 we've got. Show us, Sam.
We've got Amrabat and Tchouaméni. Yeah. And I think, like Zac said, these 2 names are players that they're not like the highest profiles. Everyone knows Tchouaméni, especially obviously plays at Real Madrid, is a quality player, but they wouldn't have put him in that conversation. Amrabat is the one that is just risen from nowhere, and everyone's like, if you have a team of the tournament without him, then you're doing something wrong. And I think that is because of how crucial he's been to Morocco's system. He's been up and down, even in the final game. Yes, you can tell there was a bit of fatigue with his passing, but his engine was incredible. He kept them going, and for me, I think he deserves to be there. But Zac, you were saying Tchouaméni.
So I want to firstly caveat this without getting so much hate. That I'm not saying that Amrabat has had a poor tournament, anything like that. He's been amazing, and actually, he might go on this board for me. I'm not too sure just yet. But Tchouaméni is a guy that going into this tournament, France had lost Paul Pogba. They'd lost N'Golo Kante, their World Cup winning midfield. And no one really knew exactly what Deschamps was going to do. Would it be Camavinga? Would it be some other guy, Fofana, whatever it might be? Would he move maybe a centre-back into midfield or something creative like that? Or would he play Tchouaméni, a guy who is still incredibly young, has never played to this kind of degree, for Real Madrid still isn't necessarily the starting midfielder for them. And he has gone with Tchouaméni, and he's someone that I didn't really expect to maybe get as many minutes as he had, to have as crucial as an impact for France as he's had.
He's got better
every single game. The goal against England was obviously a fantastic strike and really put the momentum for them to go where obviously to win the game. And the way France play, because this is what's really surprised me with France, is I going into this tournament, the players they had thought they would want to dominate the ball. I thought they'd want to dominate the ball, and what they have done in this tournament is not. They're more than happy to give the opposition the ball and let them dominate and play on the counter-attack. And Tchouaméni is really important for this, because he is when they do have that ball, he's able to keep it ticking over. He's able to start the counter-attack. He's able to you see him sometimes getting on the edge of the box to try and finish it as well. And so he's someone that surprised me. Has he had a better tournament than Amrabat?
Let's lock one in. Come on, all right.
In terms of their team, I think Amrabat has to go there because of his importance to their team.
I don't think convinced.
I think I hear everything that you're saying about Tchouaméni, but I think, like you said, and France have that luxury of they can have all of those players missing, and they can bring in someone and they will do that job. I'm not saying that there's someone the exact mold as Tchouaméni, but I think if he was to not play, they've got Fofana that came on in the last game that was really good as well. Camavinga as well. So
I get it. I just think it'll be interesting to see what we say if they win the World Cup. And then where we are. But look, Amrabat, I'm also absolutely fine. Amazing story, fantastic tournament.
Zac is fine with that. Please, no hate in the comments on that one. Right, let's lock Amrabat in then. 2 more spaces left in the midfield. This is where it gets difficult because you've got the likes of Bellingham, you've got the likes of Griezmann, you've got the likes of Modric, you've got so many individual performers within the midfield for different countries. Bruno Fernandes as well. You've just got so many within midfield that have actually stood out for their individual teams. Who's been the best out of the lot?
I think the best midfielder in this tournament, and I think he's played everywhere, but Griezmann has to be in this midfield because he is. I'll put him here. He has genuinely been. When you look at why France have been so good at this tournament, I'll put that mainly down to Griezmann, going forward and defending. Every time there was a counter-attack, Morocco was on the break, Griezmann was the one that was clearing it. And I was thinking, I literally just saw you on the edge of their box trying to play someone through. And even going forward, we're seeing the passes that he makes to his wide men, the ball that he had for Giroud as well. I think for France, he comes alive. I don't think that there's any better version of an international player that we've seen in the last few years than Griezmann is for France.
Playing a different position as well, which I think is literally he's doing something which he's never done before. And Zac, when you look at his performances, we called him a floater. That actually he's just been there. He picks up the ball, looks for the right pass, but you've seen him getting involved more and more. Yeah. And for what we think Griezmann is, he's done something slightly different this tournament, and it's worked.
I had no idea how Griezmann was going to fit into the squad before the tournament. especially with that attack for France. You're like, it's obviously going to be Dembele, it's not Giroud's up top. Where's Griezmann going? And he's been amazing. Like, I never saw this world where Griezmann was going to be playing as an 8 for France and being the heartbeat of the squad and the guy that creates everything, the guy that kind of keeps things moving, to the guy that's putting in tackles and winning the ball back. That was never the idea of Griezmann in my head. He was a guy that was in that front line.
We've seen him do it before, though. Maybe just not for France.
Not necessarily, like even for Atletico or for Barcelona, he was either playing in the middle and drifting in a little bit more.
Or as a false nine.
Not as deep as this, not as deep as this. And fair play to Deschamps on what he saw in training, or whether he just said, let's give it a go and see what happens.
You're going to play there, and then that's happened. Yeah.
And it takes a bit, and also like this, you got to remember, like Griezmann's got to commit to that role because it's tough. It's not easy to play in the middle of the park, having to drop back and keep going forward when it probably hasn't maybe done that amount of defending when he was at club level. But yeah, no, there are arguments that he's been player of the tournament, to be quite honest. He's been someone that surprised me. And I keep thinking, like, if a club wants a player like this in midfield, I'd really go and test Atleti's resolve, because he could be a really, really fun addition. But maybe it's also just like a tournament thing and wouldn't work at club football. So, yeah, no, he's
100% locked in?
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
So we've got one space left. Zach, I'm coming back to you because
this one's
literally
tight.
4 weeks, I think, nearly to the day we've been doing these shows, all right? I think you've talked about Croatia's midfield every single show at some point, so you've got a Croatian in there, right?
You hold him.
So, Luka Modric is the guy that I want to mention here. Obviously, I've spoken about Brozovic, I've spoken about Kovacic, but Luka is someone who I didn't quite know how this tournament would go for him. Obviously, you'd assume his last one for Croatia, and obviously he's coming to the end of his career now. And I think a lot of people, when they looked at Croatia, didn't think they'd get anywhere near as far as they did. The semi-finals of the World Cup, having made the finals the previous tournament. And when you watch that, or especially when you see it in person, I don't know if it comes across on TV as much, but when you watch Croatia in person, Modric is everything. Is the heartbeat of everything in terms of picking up the ball from the defenders and creating the attack, or even doing the dirty work as well and having to defend. He is essentially the heartbeat of Croatia. I don't know what Croatia are going to do without him. Honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen.
He controlled that Brazil game. He literally just controlled it from the start of the game to the final whistle, and you just think that he's someone. You just said what they're going to do without him. Well, maybe not make semi-finals of World Cups. Like, that is
and for a nation of 4 million, like, that's maybe not expected all the time.
I do hear the Modric shout, and I think he's one of those players that
he's got a wild shout, by the way.
Historically,
but out of all the players on this board, this is the one guy I'm refusing not to put
just
on this board.
hear me out, brother. Hear me out, yeah. Because there's a few players that. Okay, there's one, which is Bellingham. And for England, we can all say, if you're an England fan, or even if you're not an England fan, I've seen a lot of players rave about him, say he's one of the best performers at this tournament. When they moved his position further forward, he was incredible. But there's another player that for Argentina, we're used to him in the Premier League, but we didn't know how he was going to fit into the Argentina squad. I think he's become an important clog to their system, and that is McAllister.
I like the shout.
I think he genuinely, for me, when I've watched him play, because I've been to quite a few of the Argentina games, he is that player that is just constantly running for the team. He's always playing the ball forward. He's playing in an awkward position, kind of on the left in the midfield as well, but it works for their system. And no one would have thought that he would have been as important for Argentina. So that's why I thought he deserves a shout. I can hear the Modric, but...
Okay. Great shout, right, okay. Bellingham on the left hand right there, and Modric. McAllister, are you seriously saying he's better than either of those?
See, you're changing the question.
Team of the tournament. Has he had a better tournament than either of those?
Has he had a better tournament? I think he's had a great tournament. Compared to Modric, I think Modric has had a great tournament as well, but we're used to that. Do you know what I mean? We can make a tournament of players that have...
He's late 30s.
And that's
like, this is not expected from Modric.
And that's fine, but McAllister, no one expected him to have that important role.
Did you expect Croatia
for
to make the
Argentina.
semi-finals?
I feel like Croatia are underdogs that always go far.
Yeah,
so then we're not going to have Messi, we're not going to have Mbappe because we expect them to go. Is it most improved player or the one with the
I love the idea that McAllister's going to go back to Brighton with a World Cup winners medal. Like, that's amazing to me.
Even his goal as well.
He's not been in the team at all.
Even his goal as well. I think he's one of those players that you just overlook because you're looking at the Messis, you're looking at the Alvarez's, you're looking at the Martinez. There's bigger storylines around them. But McAllister has been very important to their system. Their whole midfield has been been incredible, but I think McAllister for me has been great.
So are you picking McAllister over Bellingham?
Yeah.
See, that
Wait.
I thought the argument that we were going to have was Bellingham over.
He's putting in Bellingham
versus
oh my gosh.
Modric, not McAllister versus Modric.
I really like him, bro. I can't lie.
If you ask 100 people on the street that have been here,
Yeah.
Modric or McAllister in a midfield, none of them are going for
that's a
McAllister.
different question
No, team of the
again.
tournament.
It's a different question.
For
You
this
keep on
tournament.
changing the question, Carl. I see what you're doing
But the
here.
way that
If you
None
guys
of
don't
them are
have
going
Modric,
for McAllister.
That's fine. If you want to have Modric, I'll let you have it. But McAllister just deserves
You'll
to be
let
there.
us have it.
He deserves to be there.
I'm sure Modric just thanks you for letting him.
Anyone in the
Give me a shout,
comments
Luca.
that would choose McAllister over Modric, please let us know. Do you agree
I like the shout. I think
with
he's,
Sam?
I think he's been really
Because
underrated.
I think he's
really
underrated, man. I think he's been.
But
I
just
agree
don't
with
think
that.
he
But
goes
team of the tournament. If we had an underrated team of the tournament, he'd make it.
Modric,
team of the tournament.
Modric, the last few games, he's come off slightly injured, right?
'Cause
And he's getting older, he's getting on. I'm not saying he's not incredible, but we're talking about
If
importance.
you scored a hat trick right for me and you got injured in the 60th minute, I'm not going to put that
Can't
against you.
play the match.
Not the same.
No, you can't be.
Not the
I'm not
same.
gonna put that
Not the
against
same.
you.
Fair enough. Let's go.
Modric
Let's
hasn't
go.
got an Olympics medal. That's what it is. Right, okay, let's
Sure,
move
go
on
on
then.
to that.
Front three. Jude Bellingham is out. We've locked
he's
that
out.
in. I don't know how. Modric is in. I mean, I get it because of Modric, but not McAllister. Right, front three then. All right, you've got one man in there. He features in the final. I mean, Mbappe. Are we locking him in? Because we've got... Right, we've had... Let's try not to just select on who's in the final and actually just think about who's, because you've had some incredible players. I can see them even just behind me. We've got Saka, you've got Phil Foden, just to name two from England. You've got Richarlison.
Get Foden in there.
You've got always. You've got Neymar in the conversation.
Yeah, he's in the conversation. He is in the conversation.
Yeah.
You've got Giroud. Obviously,
How many
we're
games
talking
did
about the
Neymar
front
play?
three in total, okay? But Mbappe, are we locking him in when you've got
Yes.
Messi in there as well? That's going to take in another position.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, we might as well put Messi on the right side, to be quite honest, and lock that in. Yeah, Mbappe's a guy who... Look, these two right here... Let's move that a little bit to the left. We've got space for
Formation right here. Okay.
look, these two are the either or the player of the tournament, to be quite honest. Could even have a little triangle here going on, to be quite honest. And I think these two are easily in the squad. Mbappe is someone who could be the second player ever after Pele to win 2 World Cups before his 24th birthday. That would be a madness. That would be crazy.
He's been incredible.
He has been incredible. I actually think maybe the game against Morocco, he's a little bit quiet. The game against England, he was a little bit quiet. But the thing is, when he is quiet, it's because he's being doubled up on.
But he still has those moments, bro. That is just
100%.
like you can always. He always gives a team that moment where you think you can't leave him alone.
Against England, he put an amazing ball into the box. It should have been finished by one of one of his teammates. And that's me. I'm not saying like him being a quiet game is a bad game. What I'm also mean is that he's normally getting doubled up on, which then means one of the other French players are free. That's the threat he brings. The same as Lionel Messi. We saw what Messi did to Gavardia. I mean, Gavardia will be quite scared to be in the same squad in training. But yeah, look, these two, I don't even think it's tough to really just be like having arguments over them getting replaced by Saka.
I think they're both in. The question for me, Messi, at the beginning of the tournament when things weren't going too well for Argentina.
Remember what he was saying?
I mean,
remember what he was saying? That's
questions around Messi and if he was going to be able to do it.
No, 100%. And I agree. I said, and I'll say it here, I said earlier, I said, I think it was around the 16 stage, I said, people were saying that Messi had been the best player in the tournament. I said he hadn't.
He'd been one of the best.
He had been
100%.
good. And I said, but you were putting him as the best player.
Because
and that was my comment there, was that Mbappe or Griezmann was better. And I kept saying, what I am seeing with Messi is he's getting better and better every game. And he's continued that. Now he is the best player in the tournament for me. No doubt about it. But the previous game against Croatia, he was ridiculous. The things he was doing on that pitch were outrageous.
But we were saying at that time, because Messi is so good, you almost overlook how good he is in games. That Mexico game, when it was crucial for them to win, to score that type of goal, to carry his team forward, to Poland to miss a penalty and then to get another assist and just playing incredibly in those games, bro, you have to appreciate it and not just see it when...
But he was already doing, like, he was having amazing games. He was having amazing games. He was having good games. Like, I'm not saying he was having bad games.
He was getting man of the match in every game he was playing.
So was he.
So that's why
I think we can contest the Man of the Match awards in this tournament. Just a little bit. Right, so we've locked both of those in.
Yeah.
I mentioned other names before, and this is going to be the difficult one because we've got one spot left.
This one's tight.
Yeah,
this one's
really
actually
is
tight.
tight.
Me and Sam really don't disagree on this. Really don't agree.
Wait, are we saying Saka's out, by the way? Yeah,
Saka's
Yeah,
Saka's out.
unfortunately. He had a great tournament,
Foden's
though.
out. Richarlison, I think, is out as well.
Out as well?
If Brazil had made it through to the next round, he might be in a bit more
And his
shout.
last game against Croatia wasn't great.
It wasn't amazing.
He
It
got
wasn't
subbed off.
amazing.
He
Very
wasn't
quick
good in
one.
that game.
Was best goal of the tournament, though? Goal of the tournament award? Did you
There's
get
been a
that?
lot of goals. I'm trying to think of any others.
It's
It
up
wasn't
there,
even the
it's up
overhead
there.
kick one. I think it was the other one where just they were passing it between.
Oh,
them.
yeah.
By hit.
One off. Yeah, sure. Give him
Yeah,
one of them.
one of them.
One of them.
Best Brazilian player at the tournament, yes or no? Just quickly.
Ooh, nah.
You still think Neymar or Richarlison?
Yeah. Ooh, nah.
The Neymar goal against Croatia is really
That was
nice as
incredible,
well.
but I don't know.
My issue with Neymar, I feel Neymar played enough. It's not his fault due to the injuries. Due to the
That's changing the title of the video. He's
Yeah,
out.
go on,
Right,
go
he's
on.
out. Let's
That's
move
a
on.
tough
Right,
question,
it
though.
is.
That
It
is a tough
is.
question.
Do an extra video.
give
on
it to Thiago
Right,
Silva.
Alvarez, Giroud. We've got those two names. Are they the only two, just to start us off? Harry Kane, disappointing, not in there.
Again, I think maybe if he scores a penalty, he's a different.
It would be
shout.
a completely different conversation.
I think
Gakpo?
Cody Gakpo's someone I think you could maybe not for the.
We've talked to him so much,
Team
he's
of the
never made
tournament.
any team that we've chosen this
Yeah,
entire
I
tournament.
think he's a bit
Because he's been on the
unfortunate.
peripheral all the time.
Yeah.
Like, there's always been players better than him. Not that he's not great and he's not done well for the Netherlands, but there's always been these type of players that are performing week in, week out as well.
These two, to get in ahead of them is a tough job.
Yeah.
A tough job. These are arguably the two best players in the world right now. And so you got to have a big tournament to do that. That's no discredit to Saka, that's no discredit to Foden, no discredit to Richarlison. It's a huge compliment to say you're close to Messi and Mbappe.
Out of these two, who's had the best tournament so far? Going head to head into the final, obviously, but he scored goals, Giroud, but so has Alvarez.
He's not just scored goals as well. Remember, the whole conversation before this World Cup was how Benzema's gonna, be the starting striker for France and how he's gonna take them forward. But Giroud has proven, and remember the last conversation in the other World Cup was that he didn't score. He was important for the team, but he didn't score.
Most improved player again, Sam. Come on.
No, because this tournament he is scoring. But if you see how hard it is to play against him, do you guys see in the England game those centre backs were struggling, and then even his goal as well, an important goal for France when they were up against it as well. He's just always a nuisance at the age that he is, and he's so crucial to how France play as well. I feel like it will be difficult not to put him in this team.
You know what's really interesting with this is he allows him to be better. He allows him to be better. Like they do so much for each other. One of the things I've been so impressed by Alvarez is his work rate. Like this whole
runs for Messi.
squad, and he does run for Messi. He allows Messi to kind of to walk as he does, and he's someone that there was this amazing thing that I said or I saw where it was mad to think that Man City were in the summer they went and bought the best striker in Europe. And then went and bought the second best striker, the best striker in South America, and arguably the two best strikers or young strikers available in the world. And there's a lot of plaudits that go out to Haaland at the moment, but I think eventually, if Haaland doesn't leave, Alvarez is the guy that's going to continue for City and be amazing. Considering how young he is, considering how this tournament has gone for him, I don't think people expected him to be starting for Argentina.
22 years old, 2 goals and an assist against Croatia.
And he didn't start those first couple of games. He wasn't the starter for the first couple of games, and then he changed it. And I think since he's been starting, you've seen Argentina improve. Lautaro Martinez was the guy up top, and things weren't quite working out. He comes in and it changes the game.
I think with France, we've seen them. We haven't seen them at their best, but we've seen them being very clinical, and we've seen them, not dominate games, but when they get those moments, they score the goals. And when the ball does come up. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. But when the ball comes forward and it's actually, it's going to stick. He's going to hold on to the ball. He's going to lay it back, or he's just going to cause a nuisance. You need players like that. And I almost think that those injuries, obviously it's not great for those players, but I think it was a blessing in disguise for France, because Giroud has shown how important he is for their system. And with the goals now, there can be no conversation about, but he does this, but he doesn't score, because he's doing both.
Okay, the conversation is Benzema back to full fitness, posted a weird cryptic Instagram as well. If he's available and they're like, we're going to bring him back,
Giroud is still starting.
You still start Giroud over Benzema, yeah?
100%. Yeah. I think it was even unfortunate for him to not start those games. Obviously, you hear it because Benzema was the best player in the world. But Giroud, for France, and remember, we're talking about France, this guy is not the same for his club as he is for his country. There's a lot of those players that are like that. Yeah. Giroud is one of them as well. He's good for his club, but for France, he's incredible, man.
I am willing to put Giroud on board.
I love that.
The stats are super close between the two of them, by the way.
Yeah.
Giroud's had more shots Alvarez has been more...
I'll be really
he's had
interested
double shots. Alvarez is actually more clinical, though. Is it going to come down to stats? I hate doing it just on stats, but...
I mean, it could come down to the final game.
Yeah.
It could come down to the final game and who does it there. I mean, I'd be really interested to see what the comments think about those two and who it would be. I mean, for our team, I'm happy to take Alvarez off and
But he's been incredible. He's been incredible.
He has. And again, there are
Playing with no fear.
I think everyone else stays. I think the one thing that position that could change after the final game is that one.
Maybe it does. Maybe we'll revisit it. Manager shout as well. We had any? I mean, Tichy just for the dancing. That was quite special. Walid Regragui, obviously, Moroccan manager.
Story.
I think he's had 100 days with them or something. And before the World Cup, well, now in total, actually, what he managed to do with Morocco.
Yeah. I think Deschamps was worth a shout. Like, he's a guy that gets a lot of stick. A lot of stick from the French media, from pundits, because he supposedly plays like boring football, but he won the World Cup. He's in the World Cup final again.
I think over 5 injuries, sickness in their squad as well, having to change centre backs and midfield before the game. Now he's done really well.
I think Croatia's manager too could also be within a shout. Yeah. I think maybe give it to Morocco's manager.
Walid Regragui, we're locking him in. Right, we finally got there. Okay, a little bit of debate definitely took place. In the comments, let us know, have we got it right or
should
wrong?
McAllister be there?
Who should be there? Bellingham, should we be in there? Or McAllister for Modric? Let us know. Up top, Giroud, or is it Alvarez? Have we made a complete mistake? Have we forgotten someone that you think has got to be in there? Zach, Sam, thank you so much. We've only got one more show, possibly. It's the World Cup final tomorrow, France against Argentina, a huge one. I'm looking forward to it. As always, we will be here on match day, so we are back tomorrow for that World Cup final. This is the Heated Debate, brought to you by Emirates. We'll see you tomorrow.